it's ready.
Thank you.
The plan would be to vote on that, and then if the financing fails, to withdraw a later item before voting. But they're both ready.
Thank you. I have item 9, and I'm going to call that item ready. Councilor Bay.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items number 10 and 11. And if there are no questions, I'll call both those items ready.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Rudd, you're back.
I have items 12, 13, and 14. So 12, again, is the PBA contract. So that would probably be, it's ready, but it'll probably be withdrawn after the first vote. And then the item 13 has been amended. It was 125,000 initially. Last week we lowered it to 65,000, which seems to provide the appropriate amount of flexibility from my perspective. And if IT needs to come back for more money later, they can. And then we have item 14, which is the 2+1 contract, which we're moving ahead to is ready. I also have 2 waiver items eventually. I think they go on at the end.
Okay. Well, we'll get to the waiver items on the back end.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'll start with item 15, which is the food truck ordinance. I intend to introduce this item, but I'm aware that some of my colleagues may choose to object to it. So I guess I would open it up for anyone that wants to discuss that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, after discussion, I will probably object, and we will bring it into a little more consideration to tweak it a little bit and get to a place where everybody feels more comfortable with it.
Thank you.
I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with that too, President Hudson. I registered my opposition to this ordinance, and I'm comfortable with the objection that will be forwarded by Councilor Driscoll.
What kind of changes do you expect, Councilor Driscoll, since we've talked about it for a while?
Yes, sir, Joe.
Well, the conversation is currently that the cap that we had discussed was 12. I just want to ensure that one, that if that means 12 in all of the places, if we plan to have, if that increases the number to 40 or something downtown, I don't know. There was discussions with some of the downtown restaurants that they felt a slightly lower number, like 8, might be doable, might be more agreeable to them. But then that also creates, I don't know if that's going to be agreeable to the food truck people. They're also with their fee, they are concerned that if they don't get enough events, that it won't be worth the bang for the buck. So I'm hopeful that between those 2 points of trying to reduce it a little bit more and trying to keep it value for the money, we can find a compromise between the restaurants and the food truck that will appease both parties.
What do you expect the timeline to be to change it?
I would hope within a session to 2 sessions.
Okay.
Councilor Rudd, I'd like to point out, obviously with what's happened to the city, the state, and the country, it's going to be very difficult to probably put anything in any kind of legislation like that as far as I think it needs to be looked at. I just got the total legislation today, the final, and I was, maybe because of my reluctance to look into it, I was sort of stunned by the amount of spaces that are offered to the, for possible food trucks. Some of the streets and some of the neighborhoods, I don't know if I'd be totally comfortable with some of the.
Just in fairness on that, what were the changes that were made this morning that made us get the local law or get this legislation just this morning? Like, what changed from when we had it earlier?
Are you asking me, Councilor Rudd?
Anybody who is more familiar.
I believe people can probably speak to it, but I believe the cap was reduced from, was it initially 21 to 12? I think.
It started that out with from 21 to 12.
So I believe that the maps and the number of events had been adjusted. So
Yeah, the
Well, my
map.
point would only be, it's not like we only got this morning. I mean, it's like horse trading, people trying to accommodate other people's perspectives to lower the number that they got adjusted. But it's fine. You can object and move it forward. Sure.
I mean, it's exactly that. It's, I mean, to me, it's not horse trade. I'm not getting any cookies or free pasta out of it. But it is trying to find something that from my hearing, a lot of the downtown restaurants said they weren't opposed to the rodeos in concept, and they've thrown out numbers that I think might be negotiable, that we could still, I think there's still a further negotiation that could happen.
And sorry, just to answer your question, Councilor Rudd, so it is the exact same, all the changes are the same things we discussed in the committee meetings. The map that was handed out, that is the same. So in terms of substance, it is the same as what we've discussed.
Thank you.
So Councilor Green, were you considering bringing the number down from 12? I know we discussed before bringing it down to around 6 to 8.
So, originally we were at 21, and then it was 14, and then the most recent thing was 12. In my opinion, I think 12 is the lowest I would go, because I think there is a concern that if you go beyond that, the trucks are going to say, why do I pay $500 if I can only go a few times? So my perspective is 12 is the lowest I would want to go, but obviously, everyone's entitled to their own, and that's, if other councilors want to go something lower, they're obviously entitled to do that.
Right, because the issue right now is that they'll be able to have 12 rodeos in Clinton Square. Like, that's the only issue, is the Clinton Square and having it 12. So if there's a way for us to reduce the number to where we're not doing 12 in Clinton Square, then I think that's where we need to start at, because that's the main issue and the main pushback is the 12 in Clinton Square.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what the issue is. I mean, I believe 12 is a fair compromise, but obviously it's not only my decision. So that's where it's up to you guys to decide if you are comfortable with the lower number.
Anything else on the food trucks? All righty.
Thank you. So item 16 is going to be withdrawn. And then for items 17 through 22, those are all ready unless there's any questions.
Any questions on any of Councilor Green's items? Thank you. Councilor Paniagua. Rita?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry that you can't see me. I don't know what's going on here, but it's okay. So I have item number 23, which it's to authorize Commissioner Finance to issue revenue in an amount not to exceed 25 million on behalf of the Syracuse City School District to provide emergency cash flow funding for fiscal year 1920. If there are no further questions, this is ready.
Are there any questions for Councilor Paniagua? Thank you. Councilor Carney.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 24 through 30. 26 is going to be withdrawn because the grant no longer exists with everything going on. All other items are ready unless there are questions.
Okay. You had 27 marked ready with a question mark, so that's ready now?
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilor Carney? Thank you. Councilor Allen.
Thank you. I have items 31 through 51. All items were ready unless Michelle, I don't know if Michelle was on the call, if she had any payment updates or not for us today.
I do not have any payment updates.
Okay. So items 31 through 51 are ready.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam President. That item is going to be, we're not ready for that one, so we're going to withdraw and bring it back up next session.
Thank you. And Councillor Rudd, here's your waiver items.
Thank you, Madam President. Items 53 and 54. Frank, would you like to talk about these waiver items to fix the?
Sure. So, as most of you know, thank you. Frank Oliva, Chief Administrative Officer for the city. As most of you know, we had a pipe burst in the mayor's suite. Probably ran for about 12 hours. A few inches of water leaked down into the city payment office, destroying much of the ceiling infrastructure and the flooring, and a significant amount of equipment, and drenched a considerable amount of paperwork. So the city's insured over $100,000. Our deductible is $100,000. We're still getting estimates for all of the work that needs to be done. The first thing that needs to be done is asbestos abatement in order for the ceiling to be repaired. So they worked this weekend to clean out the office and are working to begin the asbestos abatement in the next day or so. That was originally estimated at somewhere around $170,000 in and of itself. But it looks like it may go higher. They think there may be asbestos in the floor underneath the carpet tiles. And they think that may be the case in the mayor's suite as well. So they're testing that right now. The equipment is being cleaned and dried out. We'll salvage what we possibly can. And the rest will be scrapped and replaced. And the paperwork was boxed up. There were 12 cartons of documents, and those will be freeze dried and brought back to life as much as possible, so that we can process all of that, the paperwork and those documents. So we're looking at about 2 weeks of asbestos abatement, about a week of prep, 2 weeks of asbestos abatement, and then a week to put everything back together again. In the meantime, the PVB, or the payment office, has moved to the old Parking Violations Bureau, and we're working to get the IT set up so that they can start working again. So that's kind of the context. We're asking for the authority to spend the $100,000 deductible, which we will unfortunately go through pretty quickly.
Is there any kind of cause?
I'm sorry?
Other than a pipe just breaking, like, is there a cause? Like, was there?
It hasn't been determined yet. The insurance company's looking at it. There's some question about whether there was a faulty hose. I talked to the adjuster that when he first came in, and he immediately keyed in on a hose, and he said that the insurance company has standing agreements with some of the hose manufacturers. So that's where his focus was when I spoke to him, but I don't know if that's changed.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for the repair? Do you have any photos? Would you share? Just like.
I did not take photos. The insurance adjuster did. I don't know if any of the maintenance folks did, but I will. I'll see if there are any, and if there are, and I can get a hold of them, I will forward them to the council.
For a minute, I thought Councilor Rudd was asking photos of you, Frank.
Yeah. I certainly hope that's not the case, Councilor. Those I definitely do not have.
So Frank, can I ask you a question though?
Of
So
course.
even if this happened with all of these documents that we still have stored, does this kind of encourage or push us to start looking at ways to basically, I guess, old-fashioned term, microfiche all of our documents?
Absolutely. We prefer everything to be digital, President Hudson. Unfortunately, we've done it periodically. We've gotten grants to do it. It's a fairly expensive process, and we have thousands and thousands of documents. So whenever we were able to get a grant, secure a grant, we digitize as much as we possibly can, and then look for some additional dollars to do it more. So There's no question that we'd be in better shape if we were able to digitize these
And
things.
I'm just wondering if we lose pertinent information that we can't get back, we're gonna have ourselves a real problem.
Yep. And right now, I don't think we did, but you're absolutely right. And this should be a wake-up call.
All right.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
All righty. Well, with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Adjourn. See you at 1 o'clock.